Namaste and welcome. Today we are joining you from beautiful Terra Nostra here in Garzon, Uruguay, to have a chat about many things.
Indeed we are. And if you hear that little like way in the background, we have a teeny tiny little pond right here, and those are some of our local frogs who love to, every time Shri and I come down to this meditation grotto area, the frogs start singing. So anyway, if you hear that strange noise in the background, that's what's going on. And thank you, beloved one, for trusting us with this amount of time. You know, Shri and I really invite you to relax, just kind of breathe, and just in the first moment right now, say, hey, you know what? I found this video for a reason, and I'm going to hang out and listen to everything Shri and Kira have to say.
Because we're going to cover a variety of topics today. There's just things that Kira and I have had many conversations and realizations over the last months and years about what's going on in our world and our role in what's going on and your role in what's going on.
Yeah, and we've had so many beautiful conversations with the Archangelic Realm, with the Ascended Masters, the Blue Starborn, the crystalline beings of divine light, so much. And we've always practiced what we invite you to practice, which is spiritual discernment. And so there's many things that we've never really talked about outside of our own communions until now.
Yeah, we thought it's time to widen the conversation a little bit. And so here we are filming on September 11th. And that to me is an interesting alignment because in the United States, 9/11 is a day that has fast become kind of a holiday, a memorial day of sorts. And we might use that to kick off our conversation today.
Well, you know, I think that's a great idea because, you know, whether or not you have an opinion about 911 or that, we all know that even just the number 911 evokes a call to presence in one way or another. And that's, you know, we want to just remind you, if you have not listened to our September Revelations video prior to listening to this one, you may want to do so because we discussed why we're producing this video and bringing it out in September 2016. It won't matter when you're looking at, when you're finding it, but it was important to produce this in September 2016 because of the energies that are happening. And we had initially intended on really getting this out there in earlier September, yet it felt very important to get past some of the events, the 999 event, to get past the opening astrological events, to be kind of well on our way through this Mercury retrograde, because this is about a time of speaking your truth. And so Shri and I really live, you know, every single thing we share with you, we live. And so we felt it was important to demonstrate what we're sharing and what we're inviting you to do by doing it ourselves.
Absolutely. And by offering a perspective, because it's in the sharing. You know, the value of human conversation is that we have the opportunity to look at life through another lens, to look at experiences through another lens. And it's through the shifting of perspectives that we gain in discernment, that we gain in wisdom. You know, when you grow up with only one point of view, then the world either conforms or it doesn't. There's either alignment or stress. But as we're able to look at things from a more ascended perspective, we begin to find peace with all events and begin to come ever closer to our authentic alignment.
Ooh, beautifully said.
Now, our authentic alignment, just to make sure you're clear, is your soul. It's who you really are. The rest of all of this is an experience that you're having through the lens of a personality. Perhaps you're a boy or a girl, or perhaps you are in one culture or another. Those are filters through which we look. So meanwhile, here we are on 9/11 in 2016. And certainly the event that happened in 2001 was a great shock to the people of the United States, let alone other countries. And regardless of what you believe about what happened, meaning whether it was a false flag or a conspiracy or an act of terrorism, you know, at this point, that isn't the critical discernment, in my opinion. More importantly is, what does it stimulate within you? How are you responding to what's gone on in our world? And how does that ignite you? Does it ignite passion? Does it ignite you to find unifying ways of being, ways that are more loving? Or does it ignite separation or fear?
let's talk about the past, the present, and our future. One of the things that's important to recognize, as Shri is sharing so beautifully here, is that it doesn't matter. And we're not saying that it shouldn't matter. So we're trying to really pick our words carefully. We're getting a lot of divine guidance as we're sharing with you. And remember that our intention is not to trigger you. Our intention is to inspire you to come forward and free your mind. And so regardless of how the towers came down, regardless of who was behind it, what matters most is what it has done to the overall planetary thought body and the way that the energy of the planet is responding to that. There is an enormous amount of deception out there on the planet right now. Now, and so we're going to digress for a minute. Because you're listening to this video, no matter what you're thinking, regardless of what you're thinking, you are a pioneer. You would not be listening to this video if your mind wasn't already speaking to you and saying, I know there's more than what is in front of me. However, my loves, one of the greater ways to control you is from within the system, even when you think you're not. And this is why it is critical to free your mind. Right now, there are a lot of, let's just say, teachers. Let's use that word. A lot of teachers, many of them on what Shri and I call the metaphysical circus tour. And we want to share with you that when we say that, our intention is not to offer anything that feels disparaging. It's just what you get when you go to a circus. When you go to the circus, there's clowns that entertain you, and there's animals that have been trained to do certain things, and there's
people that have mastered certain techniques.
Exactly, and they're showing them off and showing you their routine. And at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of vendors making a whole bunch of money. And that's why it's a circus. And for many years, Shri and I were on the circus route. And we wanted to first offer to you why we're not on the circus route anymore. It's basically for two reasons. The first reason was, when we first were blessed to come together, and we've talked a lot about this, so you can read our book, Sacred Union, The Journey Home, or go to our website, learn more about that. But when Shri and I first got together, we were so naive. In our hearts, we just could not even comprehend that not everyone was doing what we do because of their passion for igniting others to do the same, and their passion for the world to lift through all of the levels of consciousness in divine preparation for everything that's coming forward. And so we so innocently meandered out. I remember our very first show, it was in San Francisco, and it was so amazing to us that we immediately, we show up, we're ready, we're there, we're meeting amazing people, but we were so attacked about money and splits and gate revenues and jealousy and competition, and it really broke our heart. I mean, it certainly broke my heart, and until it was the lesson that it needed to be.
Mm-hmm. The thing that we're wanting to offer here is that nobody has a monopoly on truth.
No.
It's your heart that decides what to believe. Even if you hear it from another person or it came from your inner wisdom, you still have to decide, what do I believe? Where do I line up or align with? And so for Kira and I, coming into the public realm via the metaphysical shows, we had assumed there was a high level of integrity, of honoring love, and what we refer to as ascended values. And what we learned is while it is indeed a more focused, more liberal environment than a county fair, for example.
No, it's a Ringling Brothers circus.
There's still a level of good old-fashioned greed, a desire for fame, desire for money, desire for attention in its various forms that are part and parcel part of what we call density or the mass consciousness.
And here's the brilliance of that, okay? The brilliance of that is Shri and I were blessed. We were in the circus for about 5 years until it got so difficult we just energetically couldn't be there, and it was very, very difficult. And what kind of, I guess what gave us the recognition that it was time to stop was when it was around 2012, and Shri and I were living with the Highland Maya. I mean, we were not repeating a story. We were not out there trying to make money on the Mayan. We were blessed beyond belief to be living in Guatemala. We lived in Guatemala for 5 years. We were working with shamans and Mayan priests that don't speak English, that barely spoke Spanish. We both had to learn some cachiquel. And the gift was that they kept saying to us, please get the truth out. Please get the truth out. Our words are being misunderstood, and what we are doing is being manipulated. And that was when Shri and I really got passionate, because we were so blessed and so honored and so humbled to be with some of the most extraordinary beings on the planet. And the high priest that we worked with has now transitioned off this planet and is actually part of why we're in Uruguay. He actually called us here, and that's a whole other video. But the reason I want you to hear this is, we went to the producer, and at this point, Shri and I were attracting very large crowds, thousands of people. We were doing our own events because it was the only way we could hold integrity. We had learned that we would invite people and we would hope to move them into a higher spirit. And these are very well-known people. We know them all, and you know all their names. And they would walk up to us and say, okay, who's got my check? They would walk in the door and ask for their check before they would even get up to talk to you. And it became very dispassionate, very enlightening. And we move through it. We accept that there's a teacher for everyone, that everyone has their level of entry. And what really culminated was when we said to this producer in Los Angeles that we felt, because there are always these panels that they run, and you think these panels are not scripted. Think again, they're reality TV. And we came to him and said, we want to hold a panel that offers the alternate voice to 2012. We want a panel that can show the other side of it. And his exact words to us were, it won't sell. Only fear sells. And we had the exact same situation with a very famous, let's just say it runs from the west to the east at night radio show with a very famous announcer who actually appeared at one of our events for a very big fee and got very angry that he also didn't get a limo throw in the deal. And we had the same conversation with him, and when we were on his show, we were kept extra hours because the lines were so full, because so many people wanted to talk, because this conversation needed to be had, and he made sure that we were never invited back. And so I'm sharing all this with you because how many of you right now are listening to all these people? Are you obsessed with all this information? You know, not too many years ago when Shri and I owned Tosa Ranch, we had the History Channel come and they interviewed us, and they did enormous amounts of footage and filming because of all the phenomenon, and made us sign off all kinds of things that only they could show our phenomenon video. And they spent days at our ranch filming. And in the end, they showed 3 seconds of film in another episode because they said the world wasn't ready for what we had to share. Our evidence was so hard, and we have all the film, we have all the proof, we have all the evidence of multidimensional spaces and portals opening and things that have never been seen before. And you know, I would watch all these history producers, and they're watching on my computer and their mouths are dropping. But the people that produce and put the show on the air control what you see.
It has to fit a theme of their own strategy. Even though supposedly phenomenon are being released, what they're actually appealing to is phenomenological thinking, meaning are you attracted to controversy? Are you attracted to conspiracy? Are you attracted to revelatory information that might be just a little scary?
And is it just enough to keep you distracted from freeing your mind?
And so what Kira's referring to is true multidimensional contact is seldom shared in a unbiased format. So one of the reasons we're offering this today is kind of a transition day for us.
Very much so.
We are going to be posting
it's
some
our
more.
911.
We're going to be posting some more material in the coming months, some
Very
revelatory
much.
information that'll be a little more evocative than you might have expected. However, there is one theme that is always true, and that is life gives us lessons. Now, how you receive the lessons and how you respond to them is up to you. In our case, we've learned so much in our time
and we
together.
still keep learning.
And by sharing some of what we learned, we hope that we're sharpening your discernment filters so that your path can be even gentler than our path was.
Beloved ones, be careful. many of our books, several of our books, we were approached by some of the big publishing companies, some of them that are in the metaphysical arena, very well known, and every time we turn down the agreement for them to publish our books, because in every one of those agreements, they have the right to actually change the wording, change the truth, and you have to say yes. And so we were blessed to be published by a wonderful publisher in Berkeley, California, and who did a beautiful job publishing our books. And then what happened was there was this interesting, very fascinating energy that said, the truth has a hard time being read right now, meaning we had some people that decided to attack us and attack us very viciously. And some of them even put on some of the websites where you can buy things, 100% false information. Yet in the spirit of controversy, these sites want that information there because they say that's what you want. That you want your adrenaline racing that hard, that you want to believe negative information, that this is what makes money. Every one of the producers of those so-called fairs that you're going to all care about one thing. No matter what comes out of their mouth, this is all about money. Now, I want you to understand one thing. Shri and I are not advocating poverty. Far from it. We are advocating the abundance that comes through the recognition that together we are stronger. That together, and I'm not trying to quote Hillary Clinton, oh my goodness, I just realized what that sounded like. I am so sorry, everybody, because I really don't want to go political on anybody. But what we are saying is that together we are stronger. We are in a world where the old structures are crumbling. You know, people of our generation, Shri and I are obviously from the boomer generation. We're from both ends of it, which is kind of cool. And so being from the boomer generation, we know what we started. We know that we started a movement that was to free your mind, that was to free the paradigms. We know that.
I just need to make sure that, dear listener, you understand. Kira's referring to what got started actually out of the 1960s and 70s in reaction in part to the Vietnam War and to the free love, the hippie movement, the liberalism, the
free thought.
Free thought, bringing balance and harmony to the world in a way that ignited people. The civil rights movement was an ignition. And of course,
civil rights, women's rights,
women's
LGBTQ
health,
rights,
environmental,
all of that.
And what happens is that these recognitions then become codified into laws, and then later, if the spirit with which they were written begins to diminish, now we have reactivity and the laws begin to erode. And so what we're referring to is not the laws, we're not referring to activism, we're not referring to rebellion. What we're saying is, where's your passion and how do you find it again if you've lost it?
Exactly.
Because what is truly in your heart is what needs to be expressed through your life.
And you're passionate, right? If you weren't passionate, you wouldn't even be listening to this video. But is your passion being directed, even though you might think it's not, by those who would have you worry about the Illuminati? You know, there's a very famous person right now, well, he got famous recently, British man, who many years ago, there was a magazine in California, a very well-known magazine, that wanted to do an interview with Shri and I on the positive side of the coming future and him on the negative side, or in the way he describes things. Not that he's negative, but in the way that he makes things very controversial. And they did our half of the article. We had already looked at it. They had already shown it to us. And when he found out that the other people in the article were Shri and I, he refused to let them publish the article. And we've run into this with other people. And guys, we're not that hard to get along with. You know, if anything, quite the opposite. But the key is, what we are passionate about is that how you move forward with your activistic nature that we all have is what makes the difference. If you are attracted to fear, if you are attracted to conspiracy, if you want to read about why the Third World War is here, or why everyone's coming to eat your brains, you know, or whatever, you no matter how awake you think you are, you're still playing on the game board.
You know, oh, there's just so many nuggets. It's almost like we need to run a little ticker. Truth nuggets.
Truth nuggets, I love it.
So I want to offer one. Yes, the Illuminati are here.
Absolutely.
They were here before you were here.
Uh-huh.
And so what? By mentally trying to unwind that which is beyond the human sense perception, for the most part, by mentally trying to figure out the world, you have entrapped yourselves. Play with that a little moment. The game board in which we are all born is a co-created hologram that you identify with, and you say, I am part of this. This is real. And of course it is. That's what you wanted to do. That's your playground. As one awakens, we begin to lift off this game board. We begin to ascend. And now we call this self-ascension because it happens naturally. It's how you're designed. Your heart is not foundationalized in duality. Your heart is not foundationalized in fear. You are a child of love, having an experience of separation. And with that separation, meaning individuated bodies and all that, we get to have lots of experiences, lots of fun, and then little by little we yearn for unity once again. And whether that yearning for oneness is alive in your heart when you're 15 or 5, or it shows up when you're 50, the timing doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The reality is the yearning will come forward, and the question is, will you listen, and are you willing to shift to align with that?
Indeed, because here's the bottom line, and we thank you for your time and listening to what we have to share, because there's going to be more videos coming out. We're going to have another one coming out very, very quickly around just after the 16th of September and before the equinox. But here's the most important piece for you to take away if you want to take something away from this. Inside of you is the greatest truth detector on the planet. And if your truth detector right now is having a challenge, if you are feeling unclear, if you are feeling without direction, if you feel fear, if you feel doubt, then you need to look at who you're paying attention to. Who are the teachers? What are you filling your brain with? Until you fully pull out and until you allow yourself the gift of really pulling out, you cannot see the wide angle lens. Part of the reason Shri and I have lived outside of the United States, and we love the United States, and we're not saying we'll never go back, but part of the reason why was because we understood that energy that thinks that maybe only the United States is waking up, or that only people of awakeness are living there. We had to get way outside so that we could see how big, how deep the rabbit hole goes. And that's one of the blessings that we always enjoy, is when we meet with people in person, when they come here to Terra Nostra, if we're out in another country meeting with people, that we have the opportunity to help them see from the other side. Because once you pull yourself out, even if you're only pulling yourself out for a weekend, pull yourself out, really pull out of it. Because when you look at it again, you will see it with clarity and with the love of understanding that every single being on this planet is on a soul's journey. How they accomplish that journey is not for us to judge. And if there was anything we would want to close with today, it would be a quote from Archangel Zadkiel that we have found very profound. It's kind of like Zadkiel's golden rule. And it came after Shri had asked him a question and said, what is sin? What is sin? And Archangel Zadkiel responded to Shri and said, if there is but one sin on your world, it is to interfere with the path of another, or to allow another to interfere with your path. We let ourselves be manipulated. We let ourselves be deceived. And we fall into it because we're in it. That's not a crime. There's nothing wrong with that. And you might spend your whole life doing that. What matters most is that you have the opportunity to free your mind and go outside and then come back with the perspective that will honestly change things.